Good evening, Internet. I hope you are doing well. Thank you for clicking on the video. Still a little bit of chill in the air. It's like this winter doesn't want to leave. Thankfully, we're not in the Sierra Nevada mountains this year. Holy moly, are they getting hammered with snow. The snowpack is like there's pictures of 15, 20, 30 feet places. It's not so nutsy. It's crazy. Yeah, it was chilly yesterday. It's possible low temps tonight in the maybe upper 30s. I don't know. Tonight here, but yeah, old man winter just isn't giving it up this year. Hopefully it doesn't just all of a sudden decide to be summer and we miss the spring. I hate it when that happens. Like, what happened to the gradual change to the warmer temperatures and the hot? I prefer hot myself. I can find ways to cool off, but you can't always find ways to warm up. I've been in places, in situations with the wind so cold, and it went right through everything. Didn't matter what you did. You still felt cold. I don't like it. But anyway, let's see what is happening in the Emerald City of Oz. Gosh, it's been a few days. I'm a little bit ahead on these, and let's see. Oh, Aunt Em and Uncle Henry are in Oz. Yeah, okay. I remember now. You remember? I remember. Well, these are your rooms, said Dorothy, opening a door. Aunt Em drew back at sight of the splendid furniture and draperies. Ain't there any place to wipe my feet? She asked. You will soon change your slippers for new shoes, replied Dorothy. Don't be afraid, Aunt Em. Here is where you are to live, so walk right in and make yourself at home. Aunt Em advanced hesitatingly. It beats the Topeka Hotel, she cried admiringly. But this place is too grand for us, child. Can't we have some back room in the attic that's more in our class? No, said Dorothy. You've got to live here, 'cause Ozma says so. And all the rooms in this palace are just as fine as these, and some are better. It won't do any good to fuss, Aunt Em. You've got to be swell and high-toned in the land of Oz, whether you want to or not. So you may as well make up your mind to it. It's hard luck, replied her aunt, looking around with an odd expression. But folks can't get used to anything if they try. Henry? Why, as to that, said Uncle Henry slowly, I believe in taking what's provided us and asking no questions. I've traveled some, Em, in my time, and you ain't. And that makes a difference between us. Then Dorothy showed them through the rooms. The first was a handsome sitting room with windows opening upon the rose gardens. Then came separate bedrooms for Aunt Em and Uncle Henry, with the fine bathroom between 'em. Aunt Em had a pretty dressing room besides, and Dorothy opened the closets and showed several exquisite costumes that had been provided for her aunt by the royal dressmakers, who had worked all night to get them ready. Everything that Aunt Em could possibly need was in the drawers and closets, and her dressing table was covered with engraved gold toilet articles. Uncle Henry had 9 suits of clothes, cut in the popular Munchkin fashion, with knee breeches, silk stockings, and low shoes with jeweled buckles. The hats to match these costumes had pointed tops and wide brims with small gold bells around the edges. His shirts were of fine linen with frilled bosoms, and his vests were richly embroidered with colored silks. Uncle Henry decided that he would first take a bath and then dress himself in a blue satin suit that had caught his fancy. He accepted his good fortune with calm composure and refused to have a servant to assist him. But Aunt Em was all of a flutter, as she said, and it took Dorothy and Jellia Jam, the housekeeper, and 2 maids a long time to dress her and do her up her hair and get her rigged like a popinjay, as she quaintly expressed. She wanted to stop and admire everything that caught her eye, and she sighed continually and declared that such finery was too good for an old country woman, and that she never thought she would have to put on airs at her time of life. Finally she was dressed, and when they went into the sitting room, there was Uncle Henry in his blue satin, walking gravely up and down the room. He had trimmed his beard and mustache and looked very dignified and respectable. "Tell me, Dorothy," he said, "do all the men here wear duds like these?" "Yes," she replied, "all except the Scarecrow and the Shaggy Man, and of course the Tin Woodman and Tick-Tock, who are made of metal. You'll find all the men at Ozma's court dressed just as you are, only perhaps a little finer." "Henry, you look like a play actor," announced Aunt Em, looking at her husband critically. "And you, Em, look more highfalutin than a peacock," he replied. "I guess you're right," she said regretfully, "but we're helpless victims of high-toned royalty." Dorothy was much amused. "Come with me," she said, "and I'll show you around the palace." I guess that's Uncle Henry, huh? Can you... Oh, I can't tell if I got it in the picture or not. She took them through the beautiful rooms and introduced them to all the people they chanced to meet. Also, she showed them her own pretty rooms, which were not far from their own. "So it's all true?" said Aunt Em, wide-eyed with amazement. "And what Dorothy told us of this fairy country was plain facts instead of dreams. But where are all the strange creatures you used to know here?" "Yes, where's the Scarecrow?" inquired Uncle Henry. "Why, he's just now away on a visit to the Tin Woodman, who is Emperor of the Winky Country," answered the little girl. "You'll see him when he comes back, and you're sure to like him." "And where's the wonderful wizard?" asked Aunt Em. "You'll see him at Ozma's luncheon, for he lives in this palace," was the reply. "And Jack Pumpkinhead?" "Oh, he lives a little way out of town, in his own pumpkin field. We'll go there sometime and see him, and we'll call on Professor Wogglebug, too." The Shaggy Man will be at the luncheon, I guess, and TikTok. And now I'll take you to see Billina, who has a house of her own." So they went into the backyard, and after walking along winding paths some distance through the beautiful gardens, they came to an attractive little house where the yellow hen sat on the front porch sunning herself. "Good morning, my dear mistress," called Billina, fluttering down to meet them. "I was expecting you to call, for I heard you had come back and brought your uncle and aunt with you." "We're here for good and all this time, Billina," cried Dorothy joyfully. "Uncle Henry and Aunt Em belong in Oz now as much as I do." "Then they are very lucky people," declared Billina, "for there couldn't be a nicer place to live. But come, my dear, I must show you all my Dorothys. 9 are living and have grown up to be very respectable hens. But one took cold at Ozma's birthday party and died of the pip, and the other 2 turned out to be horrid roosters, so I had to change their names from Dorothy to Daniel. They all had the letter D engraved upon their gold lockets, you remember, with their picture inside, and D stands for Daniel as well as for Dorothy." "Did you call both the roosters Daniel?" asked Uncle Henry. "Yes, indeed. I've 9 Dorothys and 2 Daniels, and the 9 Dorothys have 86 sons and daughters and over 300 grandchildren," said Billina proudly. "What names do you give 'em all, dear?" inquired the little girl. "Oh, they are all Dorothys and Daniels, some being juniors and some double juniors. Dorothy and Daniel are 2 good names, and I see no object in hunting for others," declared the yellow hen. "But just think, Dorothy, what a big chicken family we've grown to be, and our numbers increase nearly every day. Ozma doesn't know what to do with all the eggs we lay, and we are never eaten or harmed in any way, as chickens are in your country. They give us everything to make us contented and happy, and I, my dear, am the acknowledged queen and governor of every chicken in Oz, because I'm the eldest and started the whole colony." "You ought to be very proud, ma'am," said Uncle Henry, who was astonished to hear a hen talk so sensibly. "Oh, I am," she replied. "I've the loveliest pearl necklace you ever saw. Come in the house and I'll show it to you. And I've 9 leg bracelets and a diamond pin for each wing, but I only wear them on state occasions." They followed the yellow hen into the house, which Aunt Em declared was neat as a pin. They could not sit down because all Billina's chairs were roosting poles made of silver, so they had to stand while the hen fussily showed them her treasures. Then they had to go into the back rooms occupied by Billina's 9 Dorothys and 2 Daniels, who were all plump yellow chickens and greeted the visitors very politely. It was easy to see that they were well bred and that Billina had looked after their education. In the yards were all the children and grandchildren of these 11 elders, and they were of all sizes, from well-grown hens to tiny chickens just out of the shell. About 50 fluffy yellow youngsters were at school, being taught good manners and good grammar by a young hen who wore spectacles. They sang in chorus a patriotic song of the land of Oz in honor of their visitors, and Aunt Em was much impressed by these talking chickens. Dorothy wanted to stay and play with the young chickens for a while, but Uncle Henry and Aunt Em had not seen the palace grounds and gardens yet, and were eager to get better acquainted with the marvelous and delightful land in which they were to live. "I'll stay here, and you can go for a walk," said Dorothy. You'll be perfectly safe anywhere and may do whatever you want to. When you get tired, go back to the palace and find your rooms, and I'll come to you before luncheon is ready." So Uncle Henry and Aunt Em started out alone to explore the grounds, and Dorothy knew that they couldn't get lost because all the palace grounds were enclosed by a high wall of green marble set with emeralds. It was a rare treat to these simple folks who had lived in the country all their lives and known little enjoyment of any sort, to wear beautiful clothes and live in a palace and be treated with respect and consideration by all around them. They were very happy indeed as they strolled up the shady walks and looked upon the gorgeous flowers and shrubs, feeling that their new home was more beautiful than any tongue could describe. Suddenly, as they turned a corner and walked through a gap in a high hedge, they came face to face with an enormous lion, which crouched upon the green lawn and seemed surprised by their appearance. They stopped short, Uncle Henry trembling with horror, and Aunt Em too terrified to scream. Next moment the poor woman clasped her husband around the neck and cried, "Save me, Henry, save me!" "Can't even save myself, Em," he returned in a husky voice, "for the animal looks as if it could eat both of us and lick its chops for more. If I only had a gun." "Haven't you, Henry? Haven't you?" she asked anxiously. "Nary gun, Em, so let's die as brave and graceful as we can. I knew our luck couldn't last." "I won't die. I won't be eaten by a lion," wailed Aunt Em, glaring upon the huge beast. Then a thought struck her, and she whispered, "Henry, I've heard a savage beast can be conquered by the human eye. I'll eye that lion out of countenance and save our lives." "Try it, Em," he returned, also in a whisper. "Look at him as you do at me when I'm late for dinner." Aunt Em turned upon the lion a determined countenance and a wild, dilated eye. She glared at the immense beast steadily, and the lion, who had been quietly blinking at them, began to appear uneasy and disturbed. "Is anything the matter, ma'am?" he asked in a mild voice. At this speech from the terrible beast, Aunt Em and Uncle Henry both were startled, and then Uncle Henry remembered that this must be the lion they had seen in Ozma's throne room. "Hold on, Em," he exclaimed. "Quit the eagle-eye conquest and take courage. I guess this is the same cowardly lion Dorothy has told us about." "Oh, is it?" she asked, much relieved. "When he spoke, I got the idea, and when he looked so shamed-like, I was sure of it," Uncle Henry continued. Aunt Em regarded the animal with new interest. "Are you the cowardly lion?" she inquired. "Are you Dorothy's friend?" "Yes'm," answered the lion meekly. "Dorothy and I are old chums and are very fond of each other. I'm the king of beasts, you know, and the hungry tiger and I serve Princess Ozma as her bodyguards." "To be sure," said Aunt Em, nodding. "But the king of beasts shouldn't be cowardly." "I've heard that said before," remarked the lion, yawning till he showed his 2 great rows of sharp white teeth. "But that does not keep me from being frightened whenever I go into battle." "What do you do? Run?" asked Uncle Henry. "No, that would be foolish, for the enemy would run after me," declared the lion. "So I tremble with fear and pitch in as hard as I can, and so far I have always won my fight." Ah, I begin to understand, said Uncle Henry. You were scared when I looked at you just now, inquired Aunt Em. Excuse me. Were you scared when I looked at you just now? Inquired Aunt Em. Terribly scared, madam, answered the lion, for at first I thought you were going to have a fit. Then I noticed you were trying to overcome me by the power of your eye, and your glance was so fierce and penetrating that I shook with fear. This greatly pleased the lady, and she said quite cheerfully, Well, I won't hurt you, so don't be scared any more. I just wanted to see what the human eye was good for. The human eye is a fearful weapon, remarked the lion, scratching his nose softly with his paw to hide a smile. Had I not known you were Dorothy's friends, I might have torn you both into shreds in order to escape your terrible gaze. Aunt Em shuddered at hearing this, and Uncle Henry said hastily, I'm glad you knew us. Good morning, Mr. Lion. We'll hope to see you again, by and by, some time in the future. Good morning, replied the lion, squatting down upon the lawn again. You are likely to see a good deal of me, if you live in the land of Oz. The lion. Chapter 8. How the Grand Gallipoot joined the gnomes. Well, after leaving the Whimsies, Guph continued on his journey and penetrated far into the northwest. He wanted to get into the country of the Growlywogs, and in order to do that he must cross the Ripple Land, which was a hard thing to do. For the Ripple Land was a succession of hills and valleys, all very steep and rocky, and they had changed places constantly by rippling. While Guph was climbing a hill, it sank down under him and became a valley, and while he was descending into a valley, it rose up and carried him to the top of the hill. This was very perplexing to the traveler, and a stranger might have thought he could never cross the Ripple Land at all. But Guph knew that if he kept steadily on, he would get to the end at last. So he paid no attention to the changing hills and valleys, and plodded along as calmly as if walking upon the level ground. The result of this wise persistence was that General finally reached firmer soil, and after penetrating a dense forest, came to the dominion of the Growlywogs. No sooner had he crossed the border of this domain when 2 guards seized him and carried him before the Grand Gallipoot of the Growlywogs, who scowled upon him ferociously and asked him why he dared intrude upon his territory. I'm the Lord High General of the Invincible Army of the Gnomes, and my name is Guph, was the reply. All the world trembles when the name is mentioned. The Growlywogs gave a shout of jeering laughter at this, and one of them caught the gnome in his strong arms and tossed him high into the air. Guph was considerably shaken when he fell upon the hard ground, but he appeared to take no notice of the impertinence, and composed himself to speak again to the Grand Gallipoot. My master, King Roquat the Red, has sent me here to confer with you. He wishes your assistance to conquer the land of Oz. Here the general paused, and the Grand Gallipoot scowled upon him more terribly than ever, and said, Go on. The voice of the Grand Gallipoot was partly a roar and partly a growl. He mumbled his words badly, and Guph had to listen carefully in order to understand him. These growlywogs were certainly remarkable creatures. They were of gigantic size, yet were all bone and skin and muscle, there being no meat or fat upon their bodies at all. Their powerful muscles lay just underneath their skins, like bunches of tight rope, and the weakest growlywog was so strong that he could pick up an elephant and toss it 7 miles away. Goodness. The growlywogs. It seems unfortunate that strong people are usually so disagreeable and overbearing that no one cares for them. In fact, to be different from your fellow creatures is always a misfortune. The growlywogs knew that they were disliked and avoided by everyone, so they became surly and unsociable even among themselves. Guph knew that they hated all people, including the gnomes, but he hoped to win them over nevertheless, and knew if he succeeded, they would afford him very powerful assistance. The land of Oz is ruled by a namby-pamby girl who is distinguishedly kind and good, he continued. Her people are all happy and contented and have no care or worries whatever. Go on, growled the Grand Gallipoot. Once the Gnome King enslaved the royal family of Ev, another goody-goody lot that we detest, said the general. But Ozma interfered, although it was none of her business, and marched her army against us. With her was a Kansas girl named Dorothy, and a yellow hen, and they marched directly into the Gnome King's cavern. There they liberated our slaves from Ev and stole King Roquat's magic belt, which they carried away with them. So now our king is making a tunnel under the deadly desert so we can march through to the Emerald City. When we get there, we mean to conquer and destroy all the land and recapture the magic belt. Again he paused, and again the Grand Gallipoot growled, Go on. Guph tried to think what to say next, and a happy thought soon occurred to him. We want you to help us in this conquest, he announced, for we need the mighty aid of the growlywogs in order to make sure that we shall not be defeated. You are the strongest people in all the world, and you hate good and happy creatures as much as we gnomes do. I am sure it will be a real pleasure to you to tear down the beautiful Emerald City, and in return for your valuable assistance, we will allow you to bring back to your country 10,000 people of Oz to be your slaves. 20,000, growled the Grand Gallipoot. All right, we promise you 20,000, agreed the general. The Gallipoot made a signal, and at once his attendants picked up General Guph and carried him away to a prison, where the jailer amused himself by sticking pins in the round fat body of the old gnome to see him jump and hear him yell. But while this was going on, the Grand Gallipoot was talking with his counselors, who were the most important officials of the growlywogs. When he had stated to them the proposition of the Gnome King, he said, My advice is to offer to help them. Then, when we have conquered the land of Oz, we will take not only our 20,000 prisoners, but all the gold and jewels we want. Let us take the magic belt, too, suggested one counselor. And rob the Gnome King and make him our slave, said another. That is a good idea, declared the Grand Gallipoot. I'd like King Roquat for my own slave. He could black my boots and bring me my porridge every morning while I am in bed. There's a famous scarecrow in Oz. I'll take him for my slave, said a counselor. I'll take Tick-Tock, the machine man, said another. Give me the Tin Woodman, said the third. They went on for some time, dividing up the people and the treasure of Oz in advance of the conquest, for they had no doubt at all that they would be able to destroy Ozma's domain. Were they not the strongest people in all the world? The deadly desert has kept us out of Oz before, remarked the Grand Gallipoot. But now that the Gnome King is building a tunnel, we shall get into the Emerald City very easily. So let us send the little fat general back to his king with our promise to assist him. We will not say that we intend to conquer the gnomes after we have conquered Oz, but we will do so just the same. This plan being agreed upon, they all went home to dinner, leaving General Guph still in prison. The gnome had no idea that he had succeeded in his mission, for finding himself in prison, he feared the Growlywogs intended to put him to death. By this time the jailer had tired of sticking pins in the general, and was amusing himself by carefully pulling the gnome's whiskers out by the roots, one at a time. This enjoyment was interrupted by the Grand Gallipoot sending for the prisoner. Wait a few hours, begged the jailer. I haven't pulled out a quarter of his whiskers yet. If you keep the Grand Gallipoot waiting, he'll break your back, declared the messenger. Perhaps you're right, sighed the jailer. Take the prisoner away, if you will, but I advise you to kick him at every step he takes. It will be good fun, for he is as soft as a ripe peach. So Guph was led away to the royal castle, where the Grand Gallipoot told him that the Growlywogs had decided to assist the gnomes in conquering the land of Oz. Whenever you are ready, he added, send me word, and I will march with 18,000 of my most powerful warriors to your aid. Guph was so delighted that he forgot all the smarting caused by the pins and the pulling of whiskers. He did not even complain of the treatment he had received, but thanked the Grand Gallipoot and hurried away upon his journey. He had now secured the assistance of the Whimsies and the Growlywogs, but his success made him long for still more allies. His own life depended upon his conquering Oz, and he said to himself, I'll take no chances. I'll be certain of success. Then, when Oz is destroyed, perhaps I shall be a greater man than old Roquat, and I can throw him away and be the king of the gnomes myself. Why not? The Whimsies are stronger than the gnomes, and they are my friends. The Growlywogs are stronger than the Whimsies, and they are also my friends. There are some people still stronger than the Growlywogs, and if I can but induce them to aid me, I shall have nothing more to fear. Well, there you go. And so thickens the plot. Dun, 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 dun. Next is Chapter 9, The Wally Bug Taught Athletics. Okay. Well, yipper skipper doodle. That's what's next. Hey, there you are. I can see. So, anyway. Oh, I was going to talk about something else. And now I don't remember. Oh, wasn't that fun? Thoughts come and go, and goodness, what was it? I'll remember it in a couple hours, or by morning. Maybe I'll dream about it. I don't know. Anyway, there's always somebody bigger. Always somebody bigger than you. No matter how big you get, there's always somebody bigger, meaner. So just be nice and love everyone. I love you. I love that you listen to this and hear me ramble and still hang on there. So, as always, sweet dreams.